Hi everybody, welcome back to My Fintelligence. Today I'm here with my partner Kat.
Hello, everyone.
I have a very special guest, Anna, an advisor from National Bank with us. Hi Anna.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being here with us. We just thought if you could start off by telling us a bit about yourself and running us through your career.
Sure. So my name is Anna Hilbery. I work for National Bank Financial. I've been in the industry since I was a kid, actually. My parents were financial advisors and I grew up in the industry. I went to university. I graduated with a degree in finance and then I joined the industry. There's a bunch of courses you have to take. I became licensed as an investment advisor in 2014 and I just recently actually became a chartered investment manager this year. And now I work for National Bank Financial as a wealth management advisor.
That's amazing. Congratulations. We're really excited for you. Could you mind telling us what wealth management actually is?
Yeah, so there's a broad range of careers that one could go into when you're considering wealth management. Probably most people would start as a sales assistant or a licensed sales assistant. And what that means is you can buy and sell securities, but you can't actually give advice. So in order to give advice, you have to take it one step further and become licensed to do that. And once you can give advice, you can become an investment advisor. From there is becoming a portfolio manager or a chartered investment manager. There's a couple different pathways to get there. One is much easier than the other, but you need more experience. And I've gone the sort of, I guess, the easier educational route, but having more experience. And so being a wealth management advisor means you deal with clients. Like you're talking to clients, you're giving them advice, talking about their goals, their dreams, how to achieve a certain lifestyle, helping them with their family. If you're an asset manager, you're not really client facing. You're just dealing with the actual assets. You're running the money. You're probably a portfolio manager for like a mutual fund or a pension fund, and you really aren't doing a lot of the face-to-face contact. So they're very different career paths, and it depends very much on your passion and your personality. So if you want to become a wealth management advisor, you have to like people. You got to like people, you got to love them, you got to be interested in them, you want to find out more about them, take care of them, take care of their family. If you're an asset manager, you can still have all of those passions, but you're probably more interested in the minutia of running the money. You're really interested in ways to grow the book, different ways of investing. There's many different ways of running money. There's value managers, there's growth managers. I could go on and on. So that's a whole separate career. Both of them they're great careers to be in. They're both very exciting, very interesting, but they're completely different. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Oh, wow, that's so amazing. There's really so much variety within wealth management that I never even knew about. It's really great because there's almost something for everyone. So when you were telling us a bit about that, you mentioned having a book. For those of us who don't know, do you mind telling us what a book actually is and how you would grow one?
You're probably going to start as a licensed sales associate because when you graduate from university, you have all this theoretical knowledge, but you don't have any practical knowledge. And it takes time to learn that. You have to get a lot of years of experience behind you. So first off, when you join the industry, you're going to start as a rookie. And if you can join a team, it's a lot easier because otherwise you're just building everything from the ground up for yourself. And it's not impossible, but man, is it hard to do. It's so much easier to go with a team where you can be mentored by a senior advisor. And then maybe later on you can join their business. They can hire you as a partner. Your book as an advisor is your client base, all the people that you look after and care for and work with to partner with in building their wealth. So when I talk about a book of business, it's really a book of clients that are your clients that you deal with. And there's many different ways to grow your book. It's something that advisors are continually working on, quite frankly. If you're not growing in our industry, you got to go. So you got to keep moving. You got to keep moving forward. It's not something where you kind of get a certain asset level and then you just kind of sit there and you sit on it. Some people do that, but usually they're kind of on the way out. So you really have to be entrepreneurial in nature. You got to be passionate about what you do, and you have to be motivated. You really got to be motivated in this industry because everybody else is, and if you're not, they're going to take your clients from you.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that we can have a safe career path and yet at the same time have that entrepreneurial aspects without, I guess, the risk of actually running your own business, but have the best parts of both worlds.
So I'm going to challenge you on that. So
Okay.
there is a host of support that is there to help you, and you can have more levels of support from the company that you're working for or lower levels of support, but you really are driving your own ship. So it really is, it's not your own business because like I am an employee of National Bank Financial and I am supported by them. They help me so much with, business development and, everything that I do is supported by them, but it's up to me and it's not a salaried position. So it's kind of like owning your own business. Sort of. There's certain risks that aren't there, but it's very much like me driving the boat. And if I just kind of sit back and, I'm not working very hard, well, then I get impacted sort of the same way that, if I make mistakes, I'm the one who gets impacted and my clients, right? So it sort of is quasi like running your own business.
I completely agree. When you said between the practical knowledge and all the theoretical knowledge that we need to acquire to actually start, can you tell us a bit more about what a person who would want to become a wealth advisor need to do theoretically to get to start in the business?
Yeah. So when you graduate from university, you got all this knowledge, like, modern portfolio theory, got all these professors that you've been listening to about all these different theories. But then in real life is a lot different than theoretical life. So theoretical life, you have like all these rules, if this, then that you can sort of follow and it makes sense. But in real life, you have to deal with people and their emotions, and that changes everything. So it's learning how to work with your clients, work within their emotional risk tolerances for different assets, because people are complicated. They'll say that they're comfortable with one thing, but then you discover that they're really not. So then you're faced with the actual reality of the person's emotional ability to stick it out, because a lot of investing is about grit. You got to stick it out, right? Being the patient investor, being calm, removing your emotions from it. So when you're talking about real life experience, that's a great example. And if you didn't do a good enough job of talking to your client, really digging down deep and figuring out what it is that drives them and what they're comfortable with, well, then the client could find themselves in a very bad situation where they maybe don't follow your advice. That's a great example of a real life experience that they don't teach you about in university. And it really is about experience.
So following up with that, could you tell us what you think are some of the most important soft skills to have in order to be a successful wealth advisor?
That's a great question. So the most important thing is not trying to sell something. You don't need to sell something. You are not a salesman as a wealth manager. What you are is someone who needs to figure out what's driving your clients, what's important to them. If you feel a need that they have, you don't need to sell anything. So that is the absolute key. And it's a tricky one because clients may say that their need is one thing, but it might actually be another. So when it comes to investing, it's all wrapped up in people's emotions because money represents everything. It represents hard work, dedication, sacrifice, effort. And then it also on the other end represents ability to have freedom of choice, to take care of your family, to fulfill your dreams. So it's not about the money, it's about everything else, and then it's about the money. So when you're dealing with a client, you have to figure out what drives them, because then you can help them. If you figure out what they're looking for, then you can fulfill that by saying, okay, well, let's do this, or let's take this path, and this will make sense. But a lot of times clients aren't really sure. I mean, how much time do you ladies really sit down and think about what's driving you? Like you'll do something, you'll have like an action, okay, I'm going to do this, or maybe I want this career path. But do you really sit down and think about it? what it is in here that's driving you. Most people don't. Some people know, some don't. And so you kind of have to work through the client. You got to ask those open-ended questions. You have to get to know them, get to know their family, and really spend time working with them before you can figure that out. And those are soft skills, I would say, but they're crucial to success.
I was just going to say, Anna, it's actually really interesting that you say that, because, in our textbooks, you have a utility function and you say, hey, I have to maximize this utility function. I'm going to put this asset in this asset. But in the real world, how can you really identify that? And it really becomes to that soft skills that you need to acquire to ask the proper questions to actually implement that, as opposed to going from a theoretical side of things where you're just like math, math, math. So I actually really enjoy that about, I guess, your career and your approach.
And so just to add to that point, so then on top of that, then there's the investing skills. So not only do you have to be able to do that, but you have to be good at investing. These are clients' life savings. It's really serious what you're doing. Like, it's a serious career. We're paid good money for a reason, because I like to say most of us anyway, think we earn it. These are people that have, again, like I mentioned earlier, blood, sweat, and tears, sacrifice. They've worked their whole life to come up with this amount of money. If you look at how much time it takes to save $1 million, I did a video on that. In the beginning, it's incremental steps, unless you're making huge amounts of money, which most of us don't. Most of us, have a career, and then we work hard and we save incremental amounts over a long period of time. Like, that's a lot of effort that goes into a pot of money, right? And so when you're investing it, it's a really serious job, and you've got to do a good job. You don't want to do something stupid and lose their money, because that would set them back years. So not only do you have to have those soft skills, but you have the very serious job of investing their money, doing it in a way that it's going to grow over time. And so there's a lot going on in this career. It's challenging, but man, it's a really great job.
And as a wealth advisor, are you advising solely on investments, or are you also advising on overall wealth, for example, estate planning and things like that? So yeah, is it mainly investment based, or is it really managing the entire wealth of your clients?
Yeah, that's actually a really great question. So as an investment advisor, there's transaction based, and then there's fee based. So if you have a transaction based account, you are just saying buy this, sell that. If you have a fee-based account, you still say buy this or sell that, but you're not paying a commission to do it. If you're a wealth management advisor, to get to that level, you are not just giving buy-sell advice, literally just, what to invest in. You're doing, like you said, estate planning, you're doing financial planning, you're working with their bankers. It's wealth management. It's the whole picture. It's much more of a holistic approach. And in my opinion, the reason why Steve and my partner, he's also my father, the reason why we are wealth management advisors is because we can add more value to the client. Because if we're just looking after one piece of their life, it's just sort of one little, one chunk. But if we're able to help them with everything and do all of their planning towards this piece and this piece and this piece, and you can work together, well, then you're adding a lot more value to the client. And it's just more interesting for me, and it's more rewarding because you can have a bigger impact, positive impact in the lives of your clients. So when it comes to estate planning, that's something that it's really not, it's not something that's a lot of fun to do for clients, because you're thinking about when they're going to die, right? One day, we're all going to die. There's two things in life that are going to happen. It's death and taxes. So it's going to happen, and if you don't plan for it, there's all these sort of, complications that come up in life with families. Families are complicated. Relationships that grow over a long period of time are complicated. And when the matriarch or patriarch of the family passes away, lots of times that can change how we interact with each other. And so if you do a little bit of planning through estate planning, it can make such a difference later on for your family. So if you tie it all in together, like I said earlier, hopefully if you do a good job, you can have a much bigger positive impact in the lives of your clients.
Absolutely. Anna, I want to know, you're obviously incredibly successful. And my question is, how have you thrived in such a male-dominated industry?
Yeah, so we need more women in our industry. I'm just going to say that right off the bat. We need way more women in our industry. I think it's like 80% men and about 20% women. So the industry has changed immensely. When my mom got in the industry, my mother, she was an investment advisor with my father. And man, it was a different show back then. So there was my father, he was an investment advisor, and my mother was a licensed sales associate. And they both wanted my mother to be a partner so that they could grow the business. And the executives at the time said, why do you want to do it? Why can't you just, be his partner and, you still make the same money? What do you want to do it for? And my mother had to really fight. And she said, because I want the responsibility. So the way that our industry looks at women has changed big time. It was very much a male-dominated industry. And now we have programs where we want women to come into our industry. So for example, the reason that we are connected today is because you are part of National Bank's Women's Mentee Program, right? Because we want to have more women in the industry. So I came on right as things were starting to shift. People like my mother had to fight. Man, they had to fight to get changes in our industry. And I came on right as things were changing. And so I happen to have had, I guess, good luck in my timing. I've also just had great experiences. Now, perhaps I've talked to other women and maybe I just had a really good experience. It was a golden experience for me, and perhaps mine is unique. I also have the kind of personality where if somebody tells me that I can't do something, I'm like, oh yeah? I'm going to show you. And I'm not just going to show you, I'm going to show everybody. So, I have had people say things to me and I just thought, the heck with you. So for example, I had one executive who told me that he found 20% of what I said interesting, which meant that the other 80% was not interesting at all. And I remember thinking, okay, well, I'm going to go back and I'm going to think about what you told me. And I'm going to make sure everybody that I talk to is going to want to listen to me. And then I started doing investment videos and, best thing I ever did. So you're going to run into challenges, not just as a woman, but as a person. People are going to challenge you. They're going to say you're not good enough. You can't do it. And it's like, I have little kids. So it goes back to the very basic core message. It doesn't matter what other people think about you. It's how you feel inside. And you just have to go for it. You can't be afraid of fear of failure. You can't be afraid of what people think. You have to know that you're a valuable person, that you've got good ideas. It's okay to be you. It's okay to be, yourself. Try not to be somebody else. I think that's key. And just absolutely go for it. Don't be afraid of no. Don't ask people because they might say no. Ask them because they might say yes. I think that has been part of my success.
Amazing. I completely agree with you. And I remember on our phone call, the number one thing you told me was stop being so afraid of failure and rejection and just go for it. And that really did stick with me. Incredible. And I wanted to take this a few steps back and ask you about, we covered all the soft skills. What are some required technical skills that you need to have to thrive in this position? Let's say all the way from, Excel and like knowing the markets, and what specific degrees you would need to have.
So as far as degrees, it's great if you have a degree in finance, because obviously then you have the theoretical knowledge, some kind of, or maybe accounting or, something like that is obviously very helpful. I have heard of other people having other degrees and getting into the industry, but, clearly having that background, it's way more knowledge, that basic theoretical knowledge, and then you have to get a couple courses. You have to become licensed. You can do that through the Canadian Securities Institute, like the Canadian Securities course. It's the first one you got to take. Conduct and Practices Hand Guide, I think, is the second course. Wealth Management Essentials, portfolio management techniques, investment management techniques. There's a whole bunch of courses you can take. You can also go the route of being a chartered financial analyst. And I think there's three levels. That's a lot harder to go that route. So those are a bunch of technical courses that you have to take just to get hired in the industry. You pretty much have to have a degree unless you've been a branch manager at a bank for years and years and years and you have a lot of experience. That's pretty much the only way that you could get in without having a degree. And then once you're in the industry, if you've gone to university, you're more than likely going to have the skills that you need, especially if you've gone through a finance program. You have to know how to use Excel. It's pretty much a basic skill that you have to have. You got to know how to run a computer. You don't have to be a brilliant technician. You just have to be able to know how to use the programs in front of you. But yeah, Excel, Word, my Outlook, just sort of basic computer skills. Like I said, you don't have to be a computer whiz. I am by no means brilliant when it comes to those things, but I definitely know how to use the programs that are there in front of me. You got to be a reader. You have to have someone who has good reading skills, because you have to read analyst reports. You got to read the news all the time. You have to stay abreast of what's going on. And I think that those are probably the most essential skills. I hope I answered that question.
So from what we've heard, it really seems like none of your days are really quite the same. But could you take us through what might be a day-to-day, just so that students can get a clear vision of what really you do as a wealth advisor on a daily basis?
Yeah. So when you get into work in the morning, usually spend a bunch of time, reading through emails, reading the news, getting up to date on the day. You might do that the night before, late at night. Usually that's what I do. I have little kids, so I usually am up quite late the night before reading and going through emails. And then you spend most of the time talking to clients, talking to them about their portfolio, preparing reports. If you have, an associate or assistant who's working with you, hopefully they'll be doing a lot of that work just to take some of the workload off of you. But you spend most of the day on the phone talking to clients. The most important thing that you can do is call the client. Call the client, call the client, call the client. It is always good to talk to people. And you're on all day. And so by the end of the day, you might be feeling kind of tired, just because, if you're not a real people person, it's going to wear on you because you've been on all day talking to people. And you have to remember that you're not friends chatting about stuff. People want to deal with someone who's a leader. So when you're talking to clients, you're their advisor. Right? You're giving them advice. So you're on, and it mentally and emotionally, it can be quite a bit of work. So you have to, for me, I love people. I love my job. So for me, I love talking to people. So it's not hard for me. But if you are someone, like I said earlier, who struggles with that, you're not going to make it.
Well, that's really great to know that there's so much interaction in this position, because for those people who may feel drained after talking to someone all day, this may not be the right position to them, so it's definitely something to consider. The last question that Sam and I have for you is, what would be one piece of advice that you have for students to start building their wealth in order to set themselves up for the future?
The biggest piece of advice, and this is so much of investing, is basic. I mean, at the beginning, right? There's such a core part of what people do that is so basic. And then of course it becomes innumerably complicated after that. But the most important thing is setting up a savings plan where it's consistent and you do it again and again and again. And we have clients who didn't make huge amounts of money, but they saved each and every month what may not have been a huge amount, but after 20, 30 years of savings, they've saved up couple $1 million. We might have made them $1 million and they saved $1 million, so that it really is the key. Getting the habit of paying yourself. It doesn't have to be a lot. When I started out with $600. And when I started out in the industry, this is something we didn't talk about, but you're not going to make very much money when you first start out. You're just not. So you have to set up a savings plan. You got to pay down that student debt. And even if it's just $100 a month, having it consistently come out and you start to save, once you start getting past that sort of $50,000 range, it takes a long time to get there, but all of a sudden your behavior becomes less important than the performance. So what do I mean by that? When you first start investing, if you have $1,000 and you make 10%, well, that's $100. Well, 10% is a pretty good rate of return. But it's only $100. If you were putting $100 away every month, well, you would have saved $1,200 in a year. So you can see in the beginning, a person's own behavior is much more important than the way that you're investing. So just getting that habit, putting money aside every month, getting the consistency of it, getting in the habit, and then when you start to make more money, obviously you want to put away more money. But just start out small. It doesn't have to be huge. And the other thing is you want it to be reasonable. If you compare it to exercise, I like to exercise a lot. So if you're trying, like, in January, you're going to do a new exercise program, and you're going to starve yourself and work out really hard every day, and then you just can't do it. Well, you're bound to fail. So don't set yourself up for failure by setting aside too much money and not enjoying life. Make sure it's a reasonable amount, but it's meaningful. So it has to fit within your lifestyle so that you can live with it. But it has to be enough that it's meaningful. So again, when you're first starting out, just start out small, like $100 a month. You got student debt, you're probably not making very much money, but just get in the habit of setting the money aside.
Well, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you really enjoyed the contents and learned a lot from it. I know that both Sam and I really did. It was really quite insightful and really taught us a lot about what exactly wealth management is. Hopefully you have a fuller picture now. And Anna, thank you so much for being here with us and doing this with us. We are really excited to see you in part 2, where you tell us all your tips for success for a rookie in wealth management. So if after watching this video you think wealth management is for you, I strongly recommend you check out this video, and it'll be linked in the bio. Make sure to follow and like our channel as well as Anna's channel. It will also be linked down below. Anna, thank you again once again so much, and see you in the next video.